Coming up, it's that time of the month again for Over the Back Fence with Walter Williams and Ashley Mack. On the show, we discuss the new Galvanized Festival, the Parliamentary Crime and Corruption Committee, the PCCC, inquiry into the CCC's investigation of former Logan councillors and related matters, the Jets NRL bid, Ash Barty on fire at the Cincinnati Open, and West Moreton Health needs your help, to name a crane. It's Wednesday, August 25, 2021. And I'm Alan Roebuck. Welcome to Ipswich Today, which acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which it is produced and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. This podcast is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. Walter Williams, he's called Ipswich home for 30 years and you've heard his voice as a leading voiceover talent in Australia and was previously heard on QFM, Star FM and River. Welcome, Walter.
Thank you very much. And I'm also up for a international award, which will be announced this week. So well, you can fingers crossed.
Tell us about that in a second. Ashley Mack is also joining Over the Back Fence. Ash was born in Ipswich and he's got some strange scars from growing up in Ebervale. He was the first voice on QFM in 1990, still a media tart, and he is a small business owner. Welcome, Ash.
And I'm up for a Suburban Award. That idiot down the road. You know?
Well, Walter, before we get to what we had lined up to talk about, tell us about this international award you've entered.
Yeah, well, there's a thing called One Voice USA Awards, and they have a conference. It's a physical conference taking place in Dallas, Texas this week, and I submitted a commercial that I'd recorded and voiced, and here we are. I became a nominee in the top 6 in the world to be included in Best International Voiceover Performance.
Well, how cool is that?
I'm
pretty
sure,
thrilled.
Yes, I'm sure we wish you all the best. And look, Ash, you're not a stranger to overseas voiceovers either.
No, we used to do quite a lot of those for Vegas and Audi, their cars and all that sort of stuff. At one point, I was the Aussie voice of Vegas. Worked that one out.
Cool.
We'll keep scratching our heads on that one. But now on to Over the Back Fence. And last month, we were scratching our heads about what was galvanized. Either of you had seen signs around town and we didn't know what it was, but now we do. Walter, what do you think
we sort of do.
Well, no, it's going to be good. I think Walter's on top of it. What do you think, Walt?
Yeah. Oh, look, I love the idea of another festival. I don't think we can have enough of them, can we?
No, I don't think so.
In fact, I've even got a hoodie with Galvanized printed on it right now. I'm wearing it. If this was only television,
we would see it. But what is interesting about this festival, it's 100% driven by community groups with council coordinating it and promoting it. So normally an individual community group wouldn't have an advertising budget. So it's a very clever idea of partnerships and stakeholders, if I can use a couple of cliches, coming together to create a festival. There's a whole heap of information online. There's open days and nights, wood crafting and blacksmithing, quilt and craft, exhibitions, a torchlight and RAF aviation heritage tour. Of course, the Workshops Rail Museum is involved, and there's going to be pop-up performances, haunted tours, and a moonshine theatre.
What, are they going to Walter's place?
So from being dummies last month, I think we're all pretty happy with Galvanized.
Well, I'll be dipped. Like that pun, galvanised dip.
Yeah, right. Okay. If you have to explain the joke, Ash.
I know, I'm sorry. It was a bit technical.
Well, let's move on to population growth. I think it's time for state and federal governments to step up with some decent funding, because the city's population is not going to slow down really. It's kind of unrelenting in a good way. If you were to pick some priorities for the state and feds to chip in some money, what would you do? Let's start with you, Ash.
I'd go for it. We've got a fairly good bus service, but you can always tell a great town by its transport infrastructure, right? And we're getting to the stage now where, like, we're going to be the size of the Gold Coast, and we're needing a transport infrastructure as good as they've got.
Indeed, and that transport infrastructure for us is the backbone, that rail line from Ipswich Central to Springfield Central, so people can go either way.
The loop would be great.
Yeah, what are your priorities, Walt?
Yeah, infrastructure for one. You totally agree with Ashley on that one. And I think we need to have in place a lot of other elements of other types of infrastructure that are going to accommodate the growth. We're talking 1,600 people increase in the last month or something ridiculous. But it's nearly 250,000 people in Ipswich City now, which is massive.
Now, where does when you actually do the balance, would it be right to say that there's more and more people going in from Springfield, Redbank Plains, Spring Mountain, Ripley, that sort of area?
Well, if we look at the latest numbers,
breakdown. You pretty much nailed
it. But there's also some substantial growth still in Collingwood Park, Bellbird Park.
Right.
Deebing Heights is a big one, and of course Ripley Valley is just going to keep going through the roof.
Isn't Ripley going off?
Yeah. It really
is. My
is.
wife's getting some podiatry work done down at Ripley at the moment. So I know I have to drive there every week to get those feet sorted. And Ripley's just huge. It used to be a backwater. It was a nice little rural area, but not anymore.
Well, after being identified all those years ago and all the planning that was done, as they say, it takes longer to plan than to actually build. Now we're seeing the results of all that planning. And look, not everyone is a fan of growth. But people have got to live somewhere, so Ipswich has put its hand up, courtesy of the state government, deeming that the councils in southeast Queensland have to take a certain amount of population.
Yeah. Can I give a free plug, by the way, boys, to Mum's Bakery at Ripley? Some of the finest baked goods you'll ever taste.
You are our gourmet specialist there, Walt, so we'll happily take that recommendation on board. On to something more serious now, and that's the state government inquiry into the CCC sacking of Logan City councillors. Now, while the inquiry is all about Logan, there are implications for Ipswich, and we've seen that those sacked Ipswich councillors in the media this week have made a submission to the inquiry. We won't get too much into the nitty-gritty there, but what we will talk about is the pendulum swinging perhaps too far the other way in favour of vexatious complaints and whinges. How do you see this whole process? Because we've got to include the CCC, the Office of Independent Assessor, especially after the recent revelations in the Fassifern Guardian and Tribune. Queensland has two very powerful bodies where people can lodge complaints. How do they sort the wheat from the chaff? Walter, you go first.
Well, I for a start, I'd like to say that I think these councillors themselves have grounds, very valid grounds to stand on for this, after being called a toxic culture and everything else, and then all the charges dropped. So maybe we have gone way too far in the other direction because we're ruining people's reputations, their mental health, their financial need. All of that is being destroyed by vexatious people.
And just to clarify what you've said there, we're talking about those people who weren't charged. There were many people who weren't charged. And look, and it's fair go for the people who've done wrong, have been charged. They're paying the price for it now. Not quibbling about that. But there was a hell of a lot of collateral damage, as we say.
There wasn't there? And that's the unfortunate part.
Do you think there was a little bit too much passion running around at the time? There were so many people who were passionately against some of the people in council that they actually made a lot of noise and sort of created an unstable environment to try and judge.
Well, there's a turning point, I think. It was the 2016 local government election. Mm-hmm. And shortly after, and probably the week after the election, you had a coalition of failed candidates who were very vocal and they were just unrelenting. And they couldn't win through the ballot box, so they used methods that were available to them, which was the CCC, to whinge and complain. And then the turning point, I think, was when the former MP, Rob Pine, tabled a whole stack of papers in Parliament, much of it, in my humble opinion, a work of fiction. There may have been one or two facts in there that were correct. And, of course, that created the momentum, and then it went from there.
Yeah. Yeah, as I say, sometimes when you run for election, all you do is draw a target on your forehead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll just watch with interest. That inquiry is continuing into the CCC as we record over the back fence today. And
Is it streamed?
It is live streamed from Queensland Parliament website, and I think there's going to be a lot of stories that are yet to hit the media to come out of this hearing, because it's basically from 9:30 to 5 every day, and I think today is day 4 or 5.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on there if you are interested. It's time to move on to sport, because we love sport on Over the Back Fence. Walter, what's the latest on the Jets' bid to enter the NRL?
What are they doing?
The latest news, apart from the fact that we're not actually Ipswich Jets, we're Brisbane Jets.
But based here.
But playing at Suncorp Stadium for the next 10 years if we get the nod, because there's basically no stadium to play in. But you've got to bear in mind, all of this was part of the Brisbane Olympic bid in the first place, that we would have a stadium in North Ipswich across the river.
Yes.
There will be this brilliant stadium. That is part of the bid. So it will happen, but you've just got to hold your breath for the next 10 years. But in the meantime, we're talking about the NRL 17th team, and a lot of people are saying, is it necessary, is it not necessary? There's a lot of support for it, especially locally, to have the Brisbane Jets, but they're up against some pretty strong opposition in the Brisbane Firehawks and the Redcliffe Dolphins. The Dolphins especially, very strong political backing there in that part of the world for the 2023-24 competition. But I guess what's got to go in our favour, we've talked about it earlier, in some ways it works against Ipswich, in some ways it works for us, and that is our booming population growth.
And I think if the NRL's serious, they've got to consider what the Lions have done with Springfield Central. They're going to be based there.
Yes.
The women are going to play their games there, and they're going to get a lot of media attention. So to me, the NRL needs to select the Jets to balance the Western Corridor.
Totally agree.
Oh, very clever, very strategic. I like that.
I don't know whether I'm talking through my hat or not, but it sounded good.
We wait for Peter Volandi's decision on this.
Indeed. And we'll keep on sport for a minute, because our golden girl, Ash Barty, has won the Cincinnati Open. How good is she?
Oh, that girl is just amazing. There is not a person on this planet who doesn't think Ash Barty walks on water.
There was a bit of a glitch at the Olympics, but we'll forgive Ash for that, because it was very hot. In fact, the first night I watched her play, it must have been so hot in Tokyo that when there was quiet between the commentators talking, all you could hear were the night insects, like it was the middle of summer here.
Oh, yes.
So, yes, it was terribly hot and oppressive to play in. So we'll forgive Ash.
Was that the night insects or the COVID coughs?
No, that was the insects, Ash. The summer insects of Tokyo. So we wish her well in the US Open.
Yes, indeed. And I think we could stage our own Ipswich Open at the McClurg tennis tournament, couldn't we?
Oh, no, I'm not going to clean. I've got enough branches across that thing. I'm not going to clean that thing up again.
So that means that Ash has a tennis court that's not being used.
No.
Look at the shape of me. I can't run from one end to the other.
But didn't she? She destroyed her opponent in Cincinnati. It was huge. Her 5th win of the season for 2021, and she did it in straight sets, 6-3, 6-1, against someone who was no slacker, Jill Teichmann. I mean, really.
She hasn't lost a set since the Olympics, has she?
She did, in that tournament, she didn't drop a set for the entire tournament, right?
That's amazing.
Which really does say, US Open, watch out.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Now, just for fun, we're going to do something totally different. I got a note from West Moreton Health this week, who run the Ipswich Hospital, and they're going to run a competition about naming, and get this, a crane, because the new acute mental health unit is being built. It's been levelled now, and it's next to the multi-level car park there, opposite the hospital. So they want us to help name the crane. So I thought, I've got the brains trust of Ipswich here. What? I've got no idea what to call a crane.
Using that term loosely.
It's not a new thing. It is not a new thing. When the crane was up, when they were building the $64 million extension to St Andrews,
yes,
I was forever picking up from Kindy my granddaughter. And we had to have a name for that crane.
Oh, because your granddaughter wanted a name.
Yeah, well, the reason she would call it Cranky Crane.
Oh, nice.
No, you know where that comes from, don't you?
Cranky granddad?
No, Thomas the Tank Engine.
Of course.
Right. Sorry, I'm too old for that. Yes.
I know you need more grandkids, but that one was called Cranky Crane. Maybe we'll need a new name for this one, but it's not an unusual thing, and I think it's a great idea actually.
All right. Well, have you got a name for it, Ash?
No. I got no idea. I think I'll ask my granddaughter.
Okay, do that. Put in the entry. All the details are on the West Moreton Health website. Walter, I know you've given this very serious consideration.
I have. We're talking about the 80-metre high crane, right?
Yes.
You can see it. I saw it the other day. I was out walking my dog at the Lions Lookout, looking back towards the city, and I thought that needs a name. And then you come up with this on the agenda. So I've come up with Fraser. Fraser Crane.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
that's pretty good, I got to say.
it's pretty good at Fraser Crane.
Yeah. I was.
Come on.
Look,
actually, they're amazing things. Do you remember when the one that was used for the council building was put up?
Mm-hmm.
That we had a nice little tie-in with that because my son was an electrician for the company that put the lights in. He was the one who put those lights up the crane.
Oh, wow.
And we'd be driving into the shop in the morning in the dark, and there are those lights there. We'd say, our son did that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you had a family connection to it.
Yeah, family connection to the council chambers, yes.
It's good. I was dining Saturday night in Brisbane on the river there at Joey's, and you look at the cranes in the Brisbane skyline, and it's beautiful at night because, like you were saying, they light them up. They put the lights all along, and if we can do more of that in Ipswich without cranes, that'll look fantastic too.
The more cranes, the better.
Well, that's it.
Let's hope Fraser gets some lights on it, Walt Nash, and lights up.
I think we got a winning name.
I think we have. I think the competition's closed. Hey, look, on that happy note, thanks Ash, thanks Walt, and we'll do it again next month over the back fence.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ipswich Today is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. This podcast is also listener-supported. Please make a once-only gift or regular donation to help keep it online. Just go to ipswichtoday.com.au and click the donate button on the homepage to make a payment through PayPal. Follow and stream this podcast from your favourite app, including iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcasts, or play Ipswich Today from smart speakers. Music is supplied by Purple Planet Music. This is Alan Roebuck. Thank you for listening.